it's not defunding as a rallying cry, but what it means is it's a reallocation of resources.
So Jamaal Bowman, soon to be congressman for New York's 16th district, was on CNN with Erin Burnett, and he was asked about defund the police. Now, this clip here is going to show you just really how little CNN hosts know about left-wing policy. Watch this.
Majority Whip Jim Clyburn. He wants police reform, but here's what he told me about how he views the defund movement. Here he is.
History is instructive. I was there along with John Lewis back in the 60s and the early 70s. We saw how our movement got hijacked. We did a lot back then that led to where we are today. We would have done even more if we had not got overtaken by sloganary, burn, baby, burn, that took off in this country. Be careful that we don't get hijacked this time like we got the last time.
What do you think when you hear his thoughts?
Well, defunding the police is about a reallocation of resources. It's about a demilitarization of the police and investing in public health, investing in housing, investing in jobs, investing in education and healthcare and environmental justice, investing in mental health supports. 50% of those killed by the police suffer from some mental or physical disability. What that means is we need to take a different approach, not a lethal approach. Defunding the police also means the end of sending military equipment to local police forces that they then use on people within the community. So it's not defunding as a rallying cry, but what it means is it's a reallocation of resources toward public health and other areas that we've neglected for quite some time.
So it sounds like what you're saying is you understand his point. Sometimes words can come to mean something to people that may not actually be what you're saying. I mean, you're saying reallocate. You're not saying you don't want police, I'm presuming, right? You're not saying you don't want police providing safety. You want them to be trained differently and behave differently, right? As opposed to going away?
Well, there's a role for police, but I push back on the notion that, police and safety have to go hand in hand. When we talk about safety, the number one thing that makes me safe and secure is making sure that I have food security, housing security.
Yeah.
All right. You saw how Erin Burnett there. Before I get to Erin Burnett, though, I mean, Bowman's answer is fantastic. This is what I've talked about. Defund the police. The only debate when it comes to defund the police is how much. Defund all the way to abolish, or defund in terms of taking certain responsibilities away from the cops. So that's where the actual debate is. I mean, the idea that it's just a slogan, I mean, it shows you that both Clyburn and the CNN host don't do like an ounce of research into looking into what defund the police actually means. And if they do the research, that means they're just misinforming people. But all you have to, I mean, it takes 2 seconds. 2 seconds to look up defund the police and look up. There's books about it. There's a lot of various opinions on how it actually be implemented and pushed through. I mean, it is about taking responsibilities away from the cops, like say mental health calls, domestic disputes, calls for homelessness issues. I mean, moving this stuff away and putting the money into public healthcare, in public housing and other areas, and having specialized people deal with those sorts of calls. And so, I mean, in that way, you can also argue that it actually helps the cops because it takes responsibilities away from them and actually it ensures that they are able to focus on whatever few areas they have to focus on. Because it's human nature. If you have too many things to worry about, to take care of, you're not going to be good at all of them. So by taking those responsibilities off the cops and into other areas, into specialized areas, then you are not only just defunding the police, you are actually, you can argue, helping the cops that want to do good work, but are, encumbered by too much responsibility. So, but Erin Burnett, now to get to her. I mean, this is cable news in a nutshell. They are so focused, and I did a story on MSNBC this week as well with a similar point. They are so focused on conservative voters what conservatives want, what Trump voters want, what they're talking about, that they have no idea what actual left-wing voters want and how many are actually out there, how many exist. If you look at polling on issues like Medicare for all, huge majority of voters support Medicare for all, including conservative voters, because the poll they usually go to is look at how people self-identify. So they'll bring up the poll that, shows people self-identify as moderate or conservative more than liberal. Forgetting the fact that the word liberal inherently, I would not call myself a liberal. So inherently it is not the correct label and are not enough labels in that polling. But people may think that they are conservative or moderate. But when you actually poll them on specific policy issues like Medicare for all, or like free public college, or like ending the wars, or like raising wages, people agree with those policy initiatives. So despite that, you have these cable news pundits and hosts and anchors still just completely ignore a massive chunk of the country because they are so focused on what conservative and moderate voters want. And ultimately, it goes back to management. These are massive companies that enjoy the current system, that benefit from capitalism. So they have no reason. There is no benefit to them to properly represent the left-wing view because they benefit by acting like the only choice is, super ultra conservative, including on cultural issues, or being what they would consider to be moderate, which is really just pro-corporate. So, the options are two corporate options, and the only differences for them really is on the social issues, on abortion rights. So with that as the focus of the conversation, you completely miss out an entire chunk of where the discussion should actually be. And this is why it is so important to have people like Jamaal Bowman in Congress, not just, of course, for the actual, his votes when it comes to putting up these various ideas, but also when it comes to these media appearances. People like AOC and Jamaal Bowman have opened people's minds to the reality that there is actually another way. It's not just two corporate options, but you actually have a different way of going about politics that is, free of that special interest money and actually focuses and centers the interests of everyday people. And hopefully at some point, people on media will catch on, but at the very least, I'm glad they have people like Jamaal Bowman on, because I think his presence enough is going to wake a lot of people up.